the team that I have to pick, obviously, like this track record. I think Optic will be in the grand finals. Everyone can hit their shot. So it's irrelevant to have, like, in my opinion, it's honestly irrelevant to have like crazy good aim. Because I remember when Shroud first came in, he was most comfortable on Omen. He actually got insanely comfortable on Brim, and that was his like least comfortable character. No, I don't actually, but it's okay. Don't worry. I'm not gonna get up because that's a free show. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna.
So I'm just going to lean back once again and start interviewing and welcoming our next guest, which is the head coach of Team Sentinels. We have Rawkus joining us right now. Rawkus, who's been on a bender for the last week, but has found the energy to hang out with us this week on the show for Valoranting. Rawkus, welcome, homie. How's it going today?
It's going pretty good. I guess I've been on a vendor, but no, I'm just joking. No vendors. Just long week, tired. Had friends in town, a little bit of a vacation because a little bit of a downtime, but I'm all good.
Yeah, man, we got the reignition series happening very soon. I wouldn't be surprised to if I saw you guys participating in those, and then you'll get back onto the saddle very soon. But sometimes a vacation is much needed. But yeah, first off, let's get into the interview here, Rawkus. I want to make sure that every time we have somebody new on our show, and that we have an opportunity to interview somebody on the show, that we go back and revisit the past of our guests. So, of course, I think you have the biggest tenure, or mostly known as being like the Overwatch team coming into Valorant during like the beta days before you were even picked up by FaZe. So I wanted to know what was it like being an Overwatch player, and why did you make the switch from Overwatch here into Valorant?
Yeah, so being an Overwatch player was like really exciting because the game was brand new when like Overwatch came out. Obviously, that's how it works. But sorry, yeah, I'm already starting off great. Anyway,
bro, that's how we do it, man. That's how we do it.
My time in Overwatch was actually really fun. Like I had a lot of like really good memories. Didn't really have any bad blood with it, but I think when I transitioned, it was just time. I think the game was slowing down and getting stale. And then Valorant was brand new. I've always been a fan of Riot, so it just made sense to like kind of make that move. So.
Yeah, what was it like the ability aspect of Overwatch that enticed you into going into Valorant? Was it like a tactical FPS thing? Like, did you have experience in tactical FPSs in the past as well?
Yeah, I had a little bit of experience with tactical FPSs. I played a lot of CS. I loved CS. A lot of people don't know that, but I played like not at a very high level, but I understood the game. I just didn't put all my time into it, and I felt like I could have excelled more in CS, but I feel like NA was kind of like unprofessional compared to like the European scene. That's why NA scene never fully developed. So it did make me want to like pursue it kind of. But I had what kind of enticed me was that like it was Overwatch abilities and CS like defaults tactical like ways combined into one. And I felt like I could excel like as an Overwatch player initially at that, because I feel like the Counter-Strike players at the start would struggle with abilities, and I feel like that was kind of like the thing at the very beginning. Like they were very not used to abilities like slows and reses. It was like weird, right? So I felt like us Overwatch players excelled at like shooting raises and jets that would fly above people. It was very easy for us to play the game. I think that's why we got like a big rep at the beginning of the game for having like cracked out aim. So it was just like it was very easy for us to like come in, but we also had a lot to learn, like because we were missing a ton of stuff from Counter-Strike itself. So.
Yeah, so did you have, we just saw in a recent interview with Baby Bay, he did the natural sing with Derek, right? And they kind of had that same thing where they're watching people play Valorant and they're like, what the hell, man? Like, use your abilities. Did you also feel that same way? I know that you kind of mentioned that, but did you think like, hey, I can really shine because I bring that, like that is, you know, Valorant, although it's not supposed to be about the abilities and it's supposed to be about the shooting, it's gone so far away from just the shooting. Did you really feel like this is where I can really shine as an asset to any team by like teaching people how to actually play this part of the game?
Yeah, so mostly for me in Overwatch, I was never known for having like crazy aim, but I was very good at like ability usage, playing the game like strategically. So coming into Overwatch, I kind of had that same mindset. I feel like all the pros in this game right now, if you're a pro in this game, everyone can hit their shot. So it's irrelevant to have, like in my opinion, it's honestly irrelevant to have like crazy good aim, because like being a good teammate, have good communication, good ability usage, understanding like the game thoroughly is more important. So like when we first started playing Valorant as like FaZe and Overwatch, or FaZe Valorant rather, as Overwatch players, we basically prioritized like comboing utility. And it didn't really seem like that because we were kind of just like running it down. But a lot of people didn't realize that we were using utility together, which is why we were able to run it down. And like no one else was doing that at the time. So it seemed like very like very puggy, but it kind of wasn't. And I think people slowly realized what we were doing, but then we never like adapted. So it kind of like got stale. So
The frontline nades were one of the first ones that I saw coming out of FaZe actually during the beta days of trying to combine that a bit when you were trying to play aggro. So I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah, we had a lot of cheesy like things like cross the map utility, like a lot of combos. That was like what we were really really good at. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Kaplan. I don't know if you're muted or not. There you go.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm here. Did you so obviously there's a lot of advantages coming into Valorant from Overwatch, but like with certain like CS fundamentals, TAC FPS fundamentals, they're not something emphasized in Overwatch. Did it feel tricky for the original squad to like pick those things up quickly? Was that any reason into prioritizing a pickup like Marv who had experience like that?
Yeah, I think at the very start we wanted to pick up Marv because we wanted to learn more about CS, and he was also like he fit our personalities. He was like a phenomenal player. We even knew that in beta. Like he was extremely good. But I think what like kind of like kept us, I guess, like lacking the top like top 3, top 4, top 5 was that we never had like an official IGL. No one really wanted like an IGL at the time, so it was hard to like get us all on the same page when everyone had such different ways of viewing the game and playing the game. Like I wasn't gonna play like Baby Bay, and Corey wasn't gonna play like Zachary or Mark. You know what I mean? So it's like very hard to like put that all together. And I think like if we were to have like an IGL that came from CS with a tactical like mindset and that guy who has the experience, probably would have like been a way different view, I guess, of the game at the time. But yeah.
It is basically, what can it be that what Marv brought to the table as an IGL for you guys at FaZe in the first place help you in terms of like molding you to become the coach that you are now as well? Or what was the type of what view do you have when you're actually watching this game from like your Overwatch perspective, and how do you blend these into your coaching capabilities?
I think the time of watching from Overwatch perspective for me is like over kind of. The game is like I'm more like a Valorant player or coach now.
Okay.
So like I still have tendencies that I use, like I believe in from Overwatch that still apply when it comes to like ability usage and combos and stuff like that. And like being the most like using the littlest util to take the most space, or like using the littlest info to like fake out. Like I always try to think about the game that way in a sense. But I think more so now I'm just like focusing on like Valorant itself. I've learned like way too much to like think about the game from an Overwatch perspective. But I think at the current time in the beginning of the game, it helped me a lot. And helped like everyone. I feel like everyone did that from the respective games that they came from, like Apex players, Fortnite players, like CS players. Everyone just did that. And it just helped them at the start. But now we're all Valorant players now, so it's just like, how are we going to use our brains to like for you know, for our teams? But I think going back to like the question about Marv, but we actually had a bunch of different IGLs throughout the course of our team. It was like mostly me, Marv, and Baby Bay. It wasn't one solidified one, but it was like spurts where we had one for like 2 months and then another one for like 2 months. It was like very weird. There was times where we had 2 at the same time. So it's very, very up and down. But like actually our best like runs were like when me and Baby Bay kind of like co-IGL'd. Because like it was like it was rush with slow. So like it made sense. Because I didn't think about the game the way he did. That was the point I was trying to bring up. I think about the game where he was just like running it down on Jet. Like he loved doing that. But I also respected it because he had an idea of how he wanted to play the game, and he like played it phenomenally. He did it well. And then I also had an idea on how to like bait. I don't know. It was good to have the balance, because obviously you can't just go. But that was like
of course.
Yeah. So I think the way I think of the game now is I basically I've created my own vision just by watching a ton of Valorant. And also like learning. I learned a ton from just like watching how like Shaz operates, like how their IGLs operate. So it's just like there's a lot of things that I've just like learned over the time, but I don't think they stem from Overwatch.
Yeah. And then going from then, because we have to think about now your coaching, for your first coaching stint, which is going into Sentinels, right? So it was at a point where we're at the LCQ. FaZe unfortunately didn't make it through to go into Champions, and then there was a little bit of a break period where apparently the conversation was just hanging out with Zoms and the boys. And you're like, I want to do something. I want to coach. And then they're like, yeah, fuck it, come on. And then you coach for like a week or so. How was that going into the week? Yeah,
so we got eliminated from LCQ when I was on FaZe, and I basically couldn't stand the fact that there was going to be nothing like at all for a couple months. I really wanted to take the chance to like help my friends, and currently it was like, in my opinion, the best team at the time. In Champs, they didn't have a coach. It made sense. Offered my services, and I felt like there's a lot of things that I could help them with. They needed more like creative ideas, more like cheesy things. That's kind of like how I think about the game. I think I helped them so much at the initial like start of it. all the way through champs. And like, sorry, I'm losing my voice.
No, take your time. Take your time.
No, yeah.
You got your water close to you?
No, I don't actually, but it's okay. Don't worry. I'm not gonna get up because that's a free show. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna.
We'll pay the tier 3s, man. It's 20% September, man. We can pay for it. We can pay for it.
Yeah, but okay, but going into champs, I offered like tons of like new ideas for them, and I think that it was just a perfect fit because like I have known them for a bit. We are close friends, like me and Zoms, and I met Dapper before. I actually never hung out with Shaz or Sick or Tyson like ever before that. Yeah. But they were all up for me like helping them. So and then it just like basically just things fell into place and it just worked out very naturally. Because I feel like the way I view the game anyways, even when I was playing at the time, was I was always trying to help people improve. But what I realized as like a player is that people don't want to be coached by players don't want to be coached by other players. Like it's like some sort of ego thing, and I understand it. Like in the end of the day, no one wants to be wrong, but it's about like just like understanding where that person's coming from. So it's just like I think it suits me very well to like be in the position I'm in right now. It's like I do try to help everyone from an unbiased perspective because I just want to be the best possible team that we could possibly be.
Awesome.
And how well were you received initially? I guess like by Sentinels, because I feel like maybe like there was a lot of pride in Shaz alone for, you know, being as strong as they were with him kind of at the helm of it all, being the coach, the IGL, the dad of the team, keeping everybody in line. Was there any pushback from anybody specifically in like, hey, we don't need a coach, or was it just super easy? Like, yeah, Rawkus, come on in.
No, there was actually no pushback at all. Everyone was super receptive. Everyone was super respectful. I was actually really surprised because I thought I would have to like fight for my like respect kind of in a way. But they were all super open for it. They trusted me initially. Like even if things went completely wrong in South, which things do, nothing goes right always.
Yeah.
They like worked through it. There was a time where like we were trying a complete new comp. Like Dapper was kind of against it at the start. And then eventually he like slowly started like understanding and like enjoying it. But like the way like it basically took about like 3 or 4 maps just to get to work. And then it became our best like map at the time. So like it kind of like it was kind of like little stuff like that. They had to trust, like I had to prove myself in a sense. But like now it's so easy. Everyone just understands like if I say something, like I probably have like not the right idea, but I have like a good idea on it, right? And then it's just about working like to make it perfect, and like everyone has to be open for that. But everyone was, so it's like it was super easy to like just like convey my opinion on something, and like it just like I guess work. I don't know.
It just worked.
While we're on that topic, before I pass it over to you here, Kaplan, is because I mentioned your first sin is joining Sentinels, prepping them for champions, right? But I do remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I do remember that you were tweeting out at some point, or you mentioned it, that it was only going to be for a short stint to help them out during champions because you, like you said, you didn't want to have nothing to do during that time, right?
Yeah.
And then after champions, your goal was to actually potentially go back into playing the pro scene. So was there a moment where after champions you tried to look for opportunities and it wasn't there, you rejoined Sentinels, or what was going on during that period of time?
Actually, yeah, so that was my current, at the time, that was my like idea on like to come back to being a professional. I didn't think I was going to be coaching fully. Actually had a couple offers, but like for my mindset, Zoms actually said something kind of funny to me, which kind of like incentivized me not to pursue it at that time, because I did have offers. It was like, he was like, why join another team when you won't be able to beat us or something like that? I was like, when my sole motivation is just to win, and I'm like, that's fucked. But I kind of like I understood what he was saying, like in a sense like that. It was like so simple, but it made sense to me, and it kind of like swayed me away from that. But that was my intention at the time, so I just like stuck with it, I guess. Like I just kept sticking with it. But there was like a time where like I wanted to return as a pro after my loan agreement or whatever expired with FaZe. I had to return back to FaZe. I had actually a couple opportunities to come back like to FaZe, but I decided not to for like just personal reasons and whatnot. Nothing like with them, but I just think that like this team with the people that are surrounded and the company itself, it's just like a really good environment for me and like everyone else to flourish. Like we're just like we're all like in very good mindsets, and we all want to work really hard, and the company and the org behind it like backs us fully. It's like honestly the best like environment I've ever been a part of. Like genuinely.
They back you for sure, man. I see all those fucking Rolex pictures.
Oh no, I actually. You're trying to get me with that one, but I actually don't. I don't do esports for the money at all. I do it solely because I just love competing. I love competition.
Yeah.
It's like one of my biggest motivating factors in like the world. I just love competition itself, and I've been a part of companies or maybe organizations that haven't had this much passion or like baggage for their players and like their like team. This is like by far the most perfect environment I could ever be a part of. I think everyone else on the team agrees with that. Like,
hell yeah.
Having like owners and like staff completely invested into the scene is just like something very unique. A lot of teams like struggle with that, like in my opinion. So I think like it's just like, I don't know. I just don't want to take anything for granted and just like put all my effort into it. So
for sure.
Well, you guys are fucking monopolizing Valorant, right? You're grabbing all the best players, you're grabbing all the best content creators, whatever it is. So yeah, I think that like speaks perfectly to how invested Sentinels are to, you know, this scene and making it grow. So I think that's super cool for you guys.
how I look at Sentinels is the optic of Valorant for like COD, if that makes sense. Like Optic has COD and Sentinels have Valorant, and that's like there's no comparison. It's just that's it. Yeah. I love that because I love how invested they are into it. It just makes everyone want to work harder.
For sure.
Because like if you don't work harder, then you're just gonna be replaced. It's just the nature of competitive like gaming, right? Or competitive like sports. You just have to. Everyone has to put in the effort. So.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you were talking a bit about like trying to comp, how it took a few maps to get like Dapper, for example, to buy into it. I want to jump into an in-game question. In LCQ, you guys got pretty experimental with like the triple initiator on like Breeze, on Haven. Maps people weren't really trying it on. In my experience, like with kind of a fresh roster like you had, I'm always torn between I feel sort of incentivized to try new things because you know, you have this brand new roster and you're going to be behind maybe on more meta comps people played for a while, but at the same time, like taking a leap of faith with the new roster where maybe you have to work out some of the more basic team stuff, like it can be tricky to juggle those two things at once. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on the decision to do that.
Yeah, we actually started off with like Chamber Duelist on pretty much. Let's see. I think there's only one map where I had the triple initiator going forward. I think that was Breeze.
Yep.
So I didn't want to run.
Yeah.
Actually, no. I think it was every single map. I don't think we ran triple initiator on any single map to start.
Gotcha.
Because Breeze, we started off with Jet Chamber. Even on Ascent, we started with Jet Chamber. We wanted to experiment with that too, because I feel like a lot of teams were trying that at the start, but then eventually like swayed into something else, whether it was like Raze or I think some teams were actually playing Neon, which I don't think it was that good. And then teams ended up playing Phoenix. So it's just like people like had every different perspective on it. But I think we just came to the conclusion that like whatever map we had, like Jordan was our Raze player at the time. Whatever map we had Jordan on Raze, he felt like we could just do more with KO. It made it like we weren't running it down on the sites. Our executes were pretty like set. So like if we felt like we were gonna get stuck in a choke, for instance, we struggled a lot on Ascent getting through like A main or B main with that comp.
Yeah.
And that was like my biggest concern. Like we actually had discussions on changing the comp like a week before us playing, but we ended up not doing it. But like every other map that we were playing, let's say it was Haven, let's say it was Breeze, we felt like we were just able to like completely use the utility that we had to get out. It wasn't like we were struggling not having a second duelist. And I know there was like an interview with FNS, not an interview, but like a watch party with FNS, and he was talking about how we didn't have like a duelist on Haven. But I think we went down that half 8-4 on defense, and then attack we like lost like 3 rounds or something. Like,
yeah, kind of the opposite.
It was really like I understand that part that he was trying to bring up, but like we felt that instead of Raze, our KO, like him playing KO was just like way better for us. We felt like we got so much value from the KO utility compared to like a Raze. That was just our opinion. And I felt
Makes
like
sense.
Yeah, our attacks were pretty solid, but our defense kind of like lackluster on certain maps. So
yeah, I feel Zelsis is like pretty widely known as one of the best KO players in general. So I feel like that kind of makes sense. How much of dealing with a relatively, well, I say relatively new team, but you had a couple of new faces on the team in that specific tournament, right? In the LCQ with Shroud coming in, Zelsis coming in. How much did you guys feel you needed to lean on comfort, right? Especially with Shroud, obviously being, the player that he is, he's relatively new to Valorant, and same with Zelsis, right? Like putting Zelsis on the KO. Did you guys feel you had to lean on comfort a little bit more?
I don't feel like we actually leaned on comfort that much because I remember when Shroud first came in, he was pretty much only comfortable on not only comfortable. Sorry, that's like a bad statement. He was most comfortable on Omen, and we actually only played Omen on one map. He actually got insanely comfortable on Brim, and that was his like least comfortable character because it's kind of clunky if you play it a lot. It's like weird, but he got most comfortable on that character. He got really good on Viper. On Astra, he got comfortable on like. I think we didn't rely on comforts at all to the start, but what was really interesting to us was that we were like, oh, we have a Raze player now. It's like, it was very exciting because we didn't have a Raze player like leading up before that. Like we were kind of just like forcing like Jet Chamber comes. And like us playing Raze wasn't like a comfort pick. It was very anti-comfort. So like just to get a player who was flexible like that, be able to play like everything. Like he was actually the most uncomfortable on Neon. He like basically like a week up to our tournament on Fracture, he did not want to play Neon. Like he did not feel comfortable on it. But like it ended up being like pretty much one of his best performances was on Neon. Like he would like play like phenomenal on Fracture, and like it was just like little stuff like that. We didn't rely on comforts as much going forward, or sorry, going into the tournament. We kind of just said we're all Valorant players. We should be able to be adaptable. Let's just learn. It was kind of just like that mindset, and that's like always my mindset for everything. Like if you like we are Valorant players, we should be able to play everything, and if we can't, we shouldn't be in this position. Like
So based on that, because you said we're all Valorant players and we should be able to play, but technically, Shroud wasn't really a Valorant player. He was streaming it a shit ton. I'll give it that, right? But he's been doing other things too. But as you've mentioned that he's most comfortable playing Omen, there was still definitely, it seems like, a lot of work to be done to be able to create the right synergy by having Mikey join the roster, by having Shroud join the roster. So in that case, how did the pick of a Shroud really happened? Was it really like, hey, let's have that like I just applied and then boom, I got in? What did you see in Shroud that was gonna help Sentinels win LCQ?
I feel like a perspective that we had was there's a lot of pressure when you join this roster. Everyone's watching, and I feel like it's our last chance. We need something like grounded, and we didn't have a lot of options in my eyes to pick up for that role. And like he literally like reached out to us, like he wanted to do it. So it was like it was something that was like, this is interesting. And we also thought about like the smoke role in general was like a very like grounded role, anchored role. He's also like an experienced player, and he had like the right mindset for our team. He thinks about the game the same way like Shaz does in a sense. It just like kind of made sense. Like it was very like very just like he reached out and we're like, okay, like this makes sense, let's do it. And like the other options that we were considering at the time didn't really like fit what we wanted. And like I can't really get into that, but like it just worked perfectly for us. And also I think a big thing for him that he was super receptive to anyone's info. But I like try to work a lot with him because like I also played that role in the past. Like I could help him a lot with that. And that was something that we talked about before we even brought him in. Like when he reached out originally, I had like an hour-long talk with him about that. And he seemed super like invested into it. I'm like, yeah, I'll help you. I'm like, he just listened to the stuff I had. I gave him a lot of stuff that I had. But like the cool thing about him is that he also like went out and like created a ton of things like for himself. Like this guy learned like the most lineups I've ever seen, like crazy lineups that haven't even been invented yet. This guy was using like these random lineups, and like I don't think he had a lot of chances to use them because like I feel like the way we were playing sometimes just didn't like.
He was planning all the time.
Yeah, no, I don't know if that story even got out, but like how it happened, it was actually such like a blunder. Like it was so weird because like I don't think anyone realized that he was grabbing the bomb, or like Mike wasn't grabbing the bomb, or Dapper rather wasn't grabbing the bomb, because that wasn't the intention at all. We weren't having a Viper plan. It just for some reason I feel like everyone it was our first match and everyone was just focused on like winning. We forgot the most like important thing, which is getting the bomb. Because like it's so upsetting to look back and think about now. We're just like, how did this happen? It's like we all feel dumb. And I remember Dapper said it perfect. He was like, I just feel embarrassed. I'm like, I feel embarrassed. This is really dumb how this happened. Like it was. I'm not gonna keep going.
I mean, maybe I saw it differently, but I've watched that VOD on Icebox or whatnot. But I did see Dapper grab that spike quite often during the beginning of the rounds. But it was just at those moments where he just gets picked off, and then who's the next person in line of plant? It has to be Shroud, and then it just happened to be that point where you guys couldn't play your pulse plans after. It was quite unfortunate, but the idea was still there.
Yeah, there were some rounds. If you watch towards the end, it was so embarrassing. There was rounds where like we run up, Dapper walls, and he like thinks that he has.
I saw that one. Yeah.
There's like 2 or 3 of them, and I'm just like, I also have one timeout, so I called like a timeout. And the thing about me is that I'm not like making sure the person's playing the bomb. I'm trying to like I don't know. I'm not thinking about that as well. It's funny because like I have Dani sitting next to me, and we're both not thinking about the bomb being planted because it's such a like a basic concept that we have already. But it's like we're like, how do we miss that? Like it was like, but yeah, I guess it was just a little mistake, and mistakes happen, so we can't really dwell.
For sure,
yeah.
for sure. It was still a good run though. Kaplan, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so I feel like coming back into Sentinels, you had a lot on your plate. This last shot with LCQ, got roster changes coming around, and you added 2 analysts as well. And we were talking earlier about how like it is more staff always better. It can be too many, cooks in the kitchen if you kind of don't see things the right way. Was there any like challenge to adding 2 analysts on top of your plate as a coach, or did it just go smoothly and nothing but help?
No, I think we had that we had the tweet up that we were looking for more help for like a month. It took me like a month to find people because like I also had the same perspective is that like too many cooks in the kitchen just won't help. Like sometimes like too much help is not like good. It's just it over like too much information overload, and like sometimes the information's not good. So like I really wanted to pick like wisely on like who we needed. I think getting everyone, like getting the 2 analysts at the time, I didn't exactly know how. Well, actually I did. I didn't like it's surprised. I guess what I'm looking for, it surprised me how well it fit, like quickly. Like we didn't have like any of the like the issues that you typically have. I guess I don't know what typical issues are with like too much staff, because like I've never had that problem when I was playing. Like our staff that when I was playing in Overwatch never had that problem. But like it kind of worked out perfectly. Like Dani like fit in perfectly. Weltis fit in perfectly. It just there was no like complications. I guess so. I answered that question like 3 times.
No worries. No, so I want to go again to kind of like circling this LCQ and stuff. Both you and Dani, even just in general, having situations where players are out and you guys have to fill in. Did that kind of give you some extra insight on how to like quote unquote better coach this team? Actually having to play in an official with them and then realizing really how things are working inside the server. Like obviously you see it all from the coach's perspective, but did playing with them help you at all?
I think playing made me realize certain people's like, I guess like communication on like how they could affect other players mid game. Like sometimes tones can like mess with players, right? And that's the thing that I realized when I was playing, like subbing in. So like that's something that like kind of helped me coach better. I was able to work on that, and like that was like a non-issue. It was just like little stuff like that. Nothing like glaring issues, but like just like little things like that. I'm trying to think, like I thought when I was there was nothing really that like kind of like helped me understand them better, I guess, if that makes sense.
Is that
like, go ahead.
I was gonna say, is that a and sorry to cut you off, but is that a like tones as in like the way that you're saying this about what your teammate is doing is off-putting and nobody wants to hear that? Or is it like the way that you said that I couldn't really understand what you were saying?
Okay, so it's some of that to that, and then it's like if someone dies, their tone on like where that person is, or like urgency, affirmation, like all that little all those little things of like just the way you communicate things affect people differently, right? So that's like stuff that I realized when I was like in the game playing with them. And like I also realized like if it affected me, it probably affects others. So I was like trying to work on it with people. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on as well to talk about the, of course, the partnership stuff that's happening around the corner. I know there's a lot of things that you can't talk about, probably because one, you don't know it because it's maybe behind the scenes and closed doors of a business perspective. But I'm sure you could give us some sort of comparison. I mean, he's trying. He's looking down at the screen. I just saw that light screen calling your face, Rawkus, be like, hey, here are the good questions or the good answers I could say without saying too much.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking at your eyes. That's going to read the script here. But no, just joking aside, what are like the major differences between like Riot and Blizzard going into like the franchising versus the partnership program that you can maybe give like pros and cons of both of these facets?
Yeah, so I think I guess like in my perspective, it's like the biggest thing that comes from like a league. I'm trying to think about Overwatch, like the open ecosystem, the closed ecosystem. And I think the biggest thing for me was like professionalism and like how people like approach each day for their job. Basically, people just like they would wake up and base their day around practice in like Overwatch League. But like before then, like that ecosystem when it was just like open, everyone pretty much could do what they want, and like it was kind of, I don't know how to explain it better than that, but like you need that, like you need to be like locked into a league, in my opinion, to like be completely like invested into it. Oh, it's hard. It's not completely invested into it, but like I'm trying to think about like it's like a mentality thing. Once you're like in that league, like you like everything changes. You take it so much more. Seriously, I'm butchering this. It's hard. But like there's just that it's like a level up. I guess that's the best way to explain it. There's like a level up that you get from like current Valorant, and like when franchising happens, everyone wants to win that first season. Everyone's gonna try the absolute hardest. There's gonna be no excuses. No one's gonna like you're not gonna have that one like bad egg who's gonna be like kind of like briefing a team. People who have problems will work through them no matter what. They'll want to change. And I feel like right now there's like players in the scene that don't want to change, which is why they're like they don't work on certain teams or they're not picked up, kind of. But like those players, if they get that chance into the league, they'll change. I just already know how it is. I had teammates like that in the past, and once they got into Overwatch League, like they changed for the better. Like they just became like really good teammates. So
okay. So it looks promising into the direction that we're going towards too, as well, with what we have with the partnership program here for Riot, right?
Yeah, I think it looks really promising. The only thing that for me that kind of is not like exciting is like how limited it is at the start. I think like there's not gonna be like that many teams, and I think what Overwatch did like good in the year 2 is they added like 6 more teams. So like I think more teams like are necessary for it to be like, I guess like I forgot who uses, but like I don't want the scene to be like kept in, like I don't want to be like a lot of people just yeah, exactly, like I want a lot of people to get in the franchising. There's a lot of good players, and I feel like there's not enough spots. That's kind of my like outlook on it right now.
Okay.
One more question for you. I'll ask it for Josh RT. He's asking it in the chat here. How what roles exactly did Dani and Weltis fill, like supporting you as staff? Like how do you divide them up? You know, what specific things do they do?
Yeah. Weltis focused on like basically collecting data from our scrims and other teams like playing in previous tournaments and current tournament, which was LCQ at the time. He also helped us like basically he focused on like every single like any single stat that you could possibly need, whether it be like who's dying first like to an op, or who's dying first like this weird stuff, like literally any little intricate detail. He's basically just like complete stats guy and providing us like data for like things that we needed essentially. And then like Dani asserted himself in like a role where he was like also more so an assistant coach than an analyst in my perspective. And I think he like flourished on that. Dani has like a really good mind for the game. So like just to have him as an analyst, like for me, was not something I was looking for. Him coming in as like an assistant coach more so, like he kind of made himself like you got to put himself in that perspective to be like, or not. He put himself in that position to be like a good assistant coach, and like it just like fit in perfectly. I think he just adds a ton of things to like our team. I don't want to. I never really even thought about this question, so like it's like hard. It's like hard to like explain like what he does, but he does a lot like for me. Like we talk about, I could talk to everything and anything to him, and like he just understands the game from a top down level. He's also like a very like smart individual, so like it didn't make sense to not use his brain in that sense. And, like, so like if he said something to me, like he was passionate about it, I just trusted him. And like a lot of the stuff that he said like worked. He's really good at like creating like cheesy pistols. And I think that's like what helped us a lot. We had like a lot of like cheesy pistol ideas. We kind of bounce ideas off each other nonstop. So I think that like that's how the roles kind of work. So
are you allowed to sprinkle in an example without giving away your strat book? Because basically what I'm asking you is to give me an example by sprinkling away your opponent's strat book. So the scenario is LCQ is fucking starting. You guys just brought in Shroud and Zelsis, and you have to win champions. You have to win LCQ to go to champions. You bring in now Dani, and then you also have Weltis helping you out. And then it's like, okay, we have to prep versus the guard. What are one of the things that those each one of those people from your staff brought to the table for you to prep into a certain round versus the guard?
Yeah. So okay. So it was hard for us. It's hard to prep for a team that hasn't played in a month. We're basically like looking at it from everything that they had at the past, like in the past, they could have changed. We also looked into it, and like when we played them, basically everything was the same besides like their icebox comp. I don't think, my opinion, like Weltis and Dani didn't really do much for like anti-stratting, but what they did was like they created stuff that we could use against them that would probably like just work for us. It was like they didn't offer anything. Like, well, that sounds like rough. But like we weren't using like them specifically for anti-shrouding. That's like more so like Shaz loves anti-shrouding. That's like his thing. So we let him do that because if he has the read for the game, like we're not gonna like give him too much information, right? That's like his thing. I'm also like we also gonna help him in a sense, but like you want your IGL to have that confident read and not give him too many ideas because like if he's thinking about too many things in game, it's just gonna like cause like chaos for him. So like if he's gonna do that himself, or he asked for our help, which is like what he did. That's what that was just like the best way to approach it, and we had like tons of good anti-shrouding.
Okay.
I guess like Dani would what Dani like did like really well was he would watch like other teams and find like niche things that they did that was really cheesy, and he's like, we can use that. Like a lot of teams aren't using that at the time, so it's just like stuff like that is like how Dani like views the game, like how he looks at the game and how he like applied himself to our team, and like we found, and he also created a bunch of different things too. So it's just like stuff like little stuff like that basically just adds to like the whole thing. It's like a pot, and everyone's just adding like juices and remedies to it, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's always available if needed, and at least what I like is that we're gonna have Rawkus available with us after the break, because we're gonna be talking about champions, everything that's been going on throughout the last week. So first off, before we go on to that break, Rawkus, I gotta say thanks so much for giving us the time for the interview as well. And then we're going to go for that break right now. When we come back, talk about champions, and then get our NA hopiums up for the grand finals coming up for the next week at Champions. So we'll see you after the break.